All right. Good morning and good afternoon to our CAMA members and non-members across the country. I'm Nathan Mitchell, a board member for CAMA Manitoba, and I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar with Sab Bellissimo. It was almost a year ago that we asked Sab to be our guest speaker at a Lunch and Learn event, but unfortunately that was canceled due to the start of COVID. So we are very pleased to have Sab with us today. Before I turn it over, I have a few housekeeping items to review. Please remember to mute yourself and to turn off your cameras during the presentation. Also, please type any questions that you may have into the chat box, which is at the control panel on the bottom of the screen. And we will have some time for a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So don't be shy to put your questions in there. There'll be lots of good questions to come out at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and the link will be emailed to participants early next week. And just keep an eye out for that message coming into your inbox. So now on to our webinar for today. I'm pleased to introduce Sab Bellissimo. Sab is the Store Brands Manager, Food Department with Federated Cooperatives Limited. Sab has been in the consumer packaged goods industry for 30 years with a key focus on product and brand development. As a graduate of the University of Guelph, Sab has a reputation as an adaptive strategic leader with a proven ability in identifying and capitalizing on emerging market trends. Sab is passionate about local producers and the importance of establishing closer ties between the producers on the shelf and the farmers who grow the ingredients. Today, Sab will discuss new consumer trends and how agribusinesses are working with their partners to come up with creative products across the entire value chain. That said, thank you very much, Sab, and over to you. Look forward to the presentation.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, so I've got a big presentation here today. I'm going to talk about, spend a little time on the brands and kind of the evolution of our brands. Talk a bit about consumer insights, key focus for the brands, but spend most of our conversation around local and how we work with our producers and farmers to get product to the shelf. So that's very, very key to our overall strategy from a brand perspective. So these are kind of on the left are kind of our brands and how we want to bring that brand to life. Through consumer insights, we're a very, very consumer-focused brand, and then that's been a challenge. To tell you the truth, it's a challenge during pre-pandemic as trends come and go very, very quickly, and people's tastes are changing at an extremely rapid rate. And that's even more, we're seeing that even more during COVID, during the pandemic, and trying to predict a post-pandemic world is even going to be more difficult. And for various reasons, we're all forced to stay at home. So, shopping habits change, our eating habits change, economic challenges as well for some consumers. So all that has to be taken into account as well. As far as the brands go, some of these are, I've been with Co-op for 7.5 years. So some of these are fairly new that we developed. So, from a brand perspective, still in its infancy. The Pure brand, definitely, and that was built mainly as a lifestyle brand. Cooperative Coffee and Lucky Dragon, those are kind of 3 brands that are brand new. Co-op Gold and even Sensibles hasn't been there very, very long. That's kind of our value play. And Co-op Gold has been in the market for a long, long time, although we kind of really revived that. And you can see some of the focus, and I'll talk a bit about that as well. As far as how we want to bring, lifestyle is obviously important. Purpose is becoming more and more and more important for product development and brand development. You really need a purpose. The days of just launching good tasting products or value products are gone. You really, really need to stand for something there. Innovation, and I'll talk a bit about that. And obviously design. And design is even becoming more and more as packaging is becoming more of an issue out there as well. These are kind of like the big mega trends we kind of look at, and we really concentrate on the top 3, from healthy living to premiumization and ethical living. And that's really what's driving our brand focus. So, key focuses are premium, ultra premium quality products.
From FCL.
Hello? Oh, I'm hearing someone talk, sorry. And that's really, and I'll get big into that, but premiumization is, very key. Is, it's simple, it's been around for a while, but it's changing at a rapid rate. Look at some of the, the beer industry, for example, or the beef industry, where there's more and more selection now. You've got some in the pork, you've got some heritage breeds out there that are bringing more of a taste experience. So it gives consumers a choice on really what's important to them and where they really want to pay and where they really want to spend their money at the expense on other areas. Another beef is another example where you've got, double A beef, but you can go to dry age, and now there's, Wagyu out in the market, which is becoming more and readily available, and that price ranges from, $18, $19 a pound all the way up to $100 a pound. So, and those products are selling. Ability to drive innovation, and innovation is very, we all talk about innovation. We all want to innovate. We all want new products, because really new products are what's driving growth in the industry. If you look at every year, the growth that comes is for new products, because consumers want new products. They want to try new things. So it's an advantage there. The ability to drive real innovation, there's that whole risk factor as well. And what's true innovation, and how much can you really get from consumers' insight? Because there is some risk. Because if you're really innovating, you're not necessarily just listening to what consumers want. You're trying to anticipate what consumers want down the road. Driving the health and wellness growth wave is another big key focus for us, and a lot of that's changing, changing habits. People want, better ingredients, simpler ingredients, no artificial flavors and colors, and that's really what started driving our Pure brand, and then it grew from there. But, driving health and wellness as well, allergens is a big concern out there. Plant-based diets are big, that whole flexitarian thing, so that's driving that. And then sustainability, that's really transferring the food industry from, single-use plastic, reduction in plastic, so how does that involve, and how are we changing towards that? How are we growing that kind of industry? But sustainability also from input standpoint, from the ag side, precision agriculture. Is that going to be something of the future as well? So we're all talking sustainability. Reducing gas emissions is, big, and I'll touch a bit on that. And then why local matters, and we spend a lot of time and space and efforts on trying to do this, and it becomes somewhat difficult for us being in Western Canada. From a processing standpoint, there isn't a lot of processing in the prairie provinces. There's a bit in Alberta, a bit more in BC, but we don't have that industry really vibrant as it is in Ontario and Quebec, which, there's a huge food industry there from a manufacturing or processing. But it's important to us because we're a co-op and local is, so it's authentic for us, and it's really important. And it has that added value of not only our farmers and growers, but our customers, but also our local communities, creating jobs and all that. So that's, again, a key area for us is that whole local. So when we developed the brand, and it really grew, we really started the Pure brand as, we wanted an organic piece because we thought that was important, and we wanted something that had no artificial flavors and colors. And then we wanted some cleaning products that were earth friendly, because that was kind of the trend back there on plant derived ingredients. And since then, it's really grown. We've done, we've looked at sustainable seafood, and we've grown into pet nutrition. Again, another area that's growing as far as premiumization is concerned. And then we looked at playing in the meat sector, and we're still fooling around with that area. And you're going to see some really exciting things coming in the future on that side as well. Healthy living plant-based, so the super cluster with Pick Canada, and I'll go into a bit more detail on that, and I'll show you some examples. So really the Agri-food super cluster, I think there was $158 million put to Pick Protein Industry Canada for the Prairie provinces, and trying to work on that whole super cluster and trying to get involved in that. And that's, very, very interesting. And we do have some examples, Silicon Valley is a perfect example, or, Bay Street, they say here. So those are really examples for us to look at as an industry. So great opportunity for now, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. I do sit on the board, the Manitoba Protein Board, and there's some great work, and we're really trying to include as many members as possible, or many industries as possible into this, and see if we can make Manitoba a protein leader in the world. So that's very exciting. These are kind of, some of the things we're looking at and trying to develop from a plant-based. We're seeing some sales in that, we're seeing some customer demand for it, and that seems to be a growing trend out there, and it's really a long-term play here. Premiumization, less about what we own, more about who we are, paying more for stuff that's, really, really important to us. And it was really a shift from our, we're a private label brand. The old theory on private label is, you just knock, there's Heinz ketchup, and we knock off the Heinz ketchup. And we really wanted to get away. We really wanted to get away from being a Me Too brand. We know that plays a role. We know there's value in that for some consumers, but we really wanted to do things on our own and really act like a real brand. And I'll share some experience. Perfect example is coffee. As far as premiumization goes, you looked at, the beginning, Nescafe, Maxwell, that's kind of the first wave of coffee. And that grew to like second wave, which, Starbucks and some higher end coffee. And then the third wave, which is really the artisanal coffee, which is, fairly big. And growing. You're seeing a lot of specialty coffee shops out there that have just a different taste and profile. We have spent a lot of time on coffee, and I'm going to get into that because it's a very, very interesting industry and a very interesting relationship we have with our growers as well. So that's something I'll spend a little time on. But so you could see the evolution of coffee as becoming more and more premium, and that really, really helps from a local farmers, their local, or sorry, the growers, the coffee growers' perspective, because it actually gives them a higher demand for their products, so it adds value to them as well from a price point. So we kind of looked, and we decided to launch our coffee, and it was really we really saw some white space in the market on having, some premium coffee out there that really speaks to what some of the trends are, but still try to be accessible to that, everyday consumer as well. We really built the brand around quality, education, and sustainability, and that was key. And the relationship, either a direct trade relationship, or buying our beans direct from the farmer, so they get a premium price for it. That was very, very important. That co-op to co-op, because most of the farms in these countries are co-ops that have a whole system that supports them. And then we looked at some certified fair trade and organic, and that was important as well from a price perspective. So if you look at the average price of a coffee bean these days, about $1 a pound, and as soon as you become fair trade, the farmer gets, the grower gets $1.50 a pound, or if you're fair trade or organic, you can stretch that to $1.80, $1.90 a pound. So really, and with that extra money, they can put in producing better quality coffee and then asking for a bigger demand. So we thought that was very, very important from that perspective as well. And then really, we spent a lot of time on educating consumers or our staff, because a lot of this is sold in some of our gas convenience stores on, pouring a good cup of coffee and making sure, it's not stale and all that stuff, but also spending a lot of time on trying to attract new consumers into this market. So this is our trip to Peru. Coffee is in that piece in the middle. That was the only equipment on these farms we went. We had a great trip to Peru. We brought a film crew there, and it was really to meet some of the farmers that are growing our beans and trying to get a better understanding. For me, it was a trip of a lifetime. It really looks at a community, and we were way out in the mountains. It is a mountain kind of crop. It does grow in the shade. It's all hand-picked. And you looked at their business and their community, and you looked at something that was, especially their whole farming method, you looked at something that seems so simplistic, but there's a sophistication to it. The quality of coffee is fantastic, and how it's improving, and some of the methods they're using, from fermentation methods to drying methods to washing methods, all help in trying to get a premium kind of coffee. They're a co-op like us, so this is Monteverde out of the Amazona region in Peru, and it was great experience, looking at from a co-op standpoint and how they support their community on anything runs around, kind of a lot of our small towns where we're looking at the whole ag business that's so important to us. It was the same kind of feeling there. Premiumization when it comes to trends, pets is very, very big. Humanization of pets. People want to feed their pets with better grade food. No artificial flavors, meat as the first ingredients, no corn, no soya, which is all high allergens for dogs. So we saw a really, really big shift in that. And then we saw a lot of customers leaving our stores because we didn't really have a lot of those products. So we developed a line of our pure pet nutrition line, and it's been a huge hit. We've done some treats as well, all natural. And a lot of this product is, very equivalent to what you'd find in pet specialty stores, but it becomes more of somewhat of a value play here. So, instead of spending, $70 or $80 a bag, you can get something that's, very equivalent for, $36, $37 or $30, depending on the size. Right. So trying to get people to look at that. And that was, a big trend that we saw that really paid off for us. Reducing plastic packaging. So that's obviously been a huge in the news a lot. We think about it all the time. It's, somewhat of a challenge there for us because there's, we want to get there, but there's really not tons of alternatives out there. And we've spent when we look at the 3 R's, recycling, reuse, or reduce, we spend most of our time recycling, and most of that product gets thrown in the landfill site. So a lot of it is not. So how do we spend more time on the reducing and reusing of product? And I think that's somewhat of the trend going forward. If you look at our water bottles, for example, they're made of art PET, so that water bottle becomes another water bottle, which becomes, and so it has a life cycle, right? Or the old beer bottles where you take them back. I think that has a life cycle of 17 times that you use that product. So those are really good examples, and I'll give you some other ones here. What we're working on and what Haagen-Dazs is doing, which I find extremely interesting. So we came out with these kind of cleaning pods. They're individually pods. Think of like your dishwasher, and you just throw them you buy 3 for $6.99. You throw them in a bottle. You shake it, or spray bottle, and that's your product. So instead of shipping, 1 pallet of these products is equivalent to about, I think, 45 pallets of, Mr. Clean or Windex or any of the other products, ready to use products. Simple, convenient. It adds value as well. This is about $6.99 cost, so it's about $2.33 And I think something like this, so you're reducing, the carbon footprint's a lot, you're reducing the amount of plastic you're using, and you're also reducing the amount of water you're shipping, because most of the ingredients in these cleaning products are water. So you're just really buying the active ingredients and then adding your own water. I think these are great products. We're really excited. We're just launching these. We're looking at some disinfectant products as well. This is a really cool item. So Haagen-Dazs is doing this in Ontario right now, and it's a reusable ice cream container. So it's made of metal, and it's supposedly a better eating experience because it kind of melts just from the top down. Very insulated, but it's kind of I was reading on their website last night. It's kind of like the modern day milkman. So this is delivered through the Loop program to your house, and you ship it back, and you get another one back full, right? So it's just kind of reusing containers, right? And I think that's what we have to do as an industry, is start thinking outside of the box, and how do we start reusing some of the products or some of the containers we have. And that's, again, a big focus of ours. And I think this was a perfect example. So I really wanted to show one example of reducing and reusing as far as packaging is concerned. And then local. So I'll spend a lot of time on some local and give you some examples of what we're trying to do locally. This is, because of COVID, you guys insulated spenders and constrained spenders. And what we're finding is 25% of the spenders are really been constrained because of COVID, either, loss of jobs or whatever, but that's really, constrained 25, and then 75 are insulated, 64 are living comfortably, and 11% are free spending. So there's a real dynamic between what's going on the market. There's people are either saving a lot or they're just really scrambling right now. It's unfortunate, but it's just trying to figure out post-pandemic what's going to happen in the market. And then emerging consumer priorities and influence, and I found this is a Nielsen report, but I found this really interesting, where the importance of shopping is buying local up 82%, and that was the number one. And I find that very intriguing. We know there was a shift especially to buying Canadian and buying local. Pre-pandemic, we did see a lot of that. We saw some of that just because of the political situation in the States, and people don't want to buy from there, or they're suspect of stuff coming from Asia, right? So it's put a lot of focus on our local, and it's really the direction where we're going in. But I just found that very interesting as the number one. And usually local, you are somewhat paying a premium on local products. But I thought that was really important. And then obviously, store influence is why they're shopping close to home, sanitizing. A lot of these you would never ever seen before the pandemic. And we don't know how long some of these are going to stay after. They might. I think they're going to, slowly kind of wind down back to normal. But I think there's going to be a period there where you're going to see a lot of these same influences and trends out there. I also found this, who consumers trust the most, and farmers are the number one. Universities of Research or Canadian agriculture overall as the top three. Food processor, manufactured, or government are the least trusted, or restaurants are the least trusted, right? So I did find that I did find this very interesting, and this is why we'd love, tracing that story back to the farmer. How do we do more of that? How do we really make them the star of the show? How do we do more added value products? So they're, not just shipping seed over to global markets, but actually shipping some processed products or finished good products. Keeping more of that whole industry in Western Canada. Who do Canadians hold responsible for providing the information? Again, farmers. food processing manufacturers, number 2, and then government. So again, seeing how farmers kind of rise, or growers are rising to the top of this. And then we're creating stories. So this is a local product we just started working on. This is not launched. The artwork is not finished, but I thought this was a really, really cool product. And the idea is, local summer sweet strawberries all year long. Greenhouse grown by the Schreimers Farms in Manitoba. We really wanted to scream that whole Manitoba out. A lot of the strawberries we buy throughout the year are not really, bred for taste, or they're made to ship well and package well and all that stuff and look well, but not necessarily taste. So we want to bring that local, when it's summertime, peak strawberry season, the taste of fresh strawberries. That's what we want to bring, and we want to bring that to every day. And we work with Schreimer Farms, who's been a really, really big partner of us for about 20 years and growing a bunch of stuff for us. And they really invested. We'll have this exclusive for us, but they've invested the money to put a greenhouse on their farm so we can have this product all year. And then creating stories around local. This is again a true partnership, and this is with us and local growers and the food center here in Saskatoon. And the idea behind this was really, most of the pickles come from India. There's nothing wrong with them. They're good quality pickles. They're very, very safe. But we did get a lot of feedback from our customers saying, we got all these cucumbers. Why aren't we growing, or why aren't we processing our own pickles? And what we found, there was really no facility. There was no one really doing pickling in Western Canada. There was one guy in Ontario, but capacity was an issue there. So we invested in the food center to buy the equipment. We have 2 local growers growing for us, and we want to expand that. And it's really, really a true partnership where we all are working together on trying to create something that's added value. We did some pickles, pickled carrots. We're going to do some mixed vegetables. We did some really good local relish. Mustard, and this drove me crazy on mustard, is, we grow 70% of the mustard seed in the world. But we ship it down to, I think, Ohio, and then we buy mustard back. So how do we keep that here? How do we keep that to grow here? Jams, and I'll get into jams, which has been a huge success story for us. Garlic salsa. And then we're looking really at tomatoes. There's a lot of greenhouse tomatoes out there. Is how do we use those to make some finished products as well? And these are kind of some of the partners, and we want to, Prairie Fresh is out of Saskatchewan. It's a group of 17 vegetable growers. And that's a huge story in itself. We started doing business with them in 2013 from a fresh produce standpoint. And I think the first year we bought something like 155,000 pounds. Last year we bought over 4 million pounds of local produce. It's a great system that works well. We're very, very committed to it. The quality of the product is, far superior to what you're getting from imported product. And just because of the timing of when you can harvest it and be on the store shelf, that's always very, very important with perishable items. And the other guy we're working with is the Cucumber Man, and he's out of Alberta. And he runs a greenhouse, so he's grown most of the cucumbers we do from our relish coming from him, and he's doing some stuff on our pickles, and we're looking at doing some stuff on tomatoes. So what we're trying to do as well is trying to, and I gave you examples, one in each province, and we do a lot of stuff out of BC, but we're trying to expand that love right throughout to prairie provinces and make sure that we are supporting everybody equally as much as possible. And these are kind of, carrots, the same, and we do have fantastic carrots, fresh carrots, but that same carrot we start pickling, and that's grown, excuse me, out of Spring Creek Gardens, out of Outlook. Those are kind of the relishes we do, the yellow mustard, and these are made exclusively with vegetables grown in Western Canada and processed in Saskatoon. And we're looking for more because, as I said earlier, there's really just shortage of processing plants. So we're looking for more and more processing plants out there, and then trying to nurture that or trying to help that as well. This is another really, really cool item. It's oat beverage. So there's a big trend in oat beverages growing 200 to 300% a year. Still small. The alternative dairy market is big. Again, plant-based. And why it's popular and why it's grown at a faster rate than, soya's kind of died. Excuse me. And almond is, growing, still big, but kind of declining. And there's a big sustainability issue, environmental impact on almonds. Plus, we don't grow almonds in our backyard, where oats we do. And that's why I love this whole plant-based is also the economics and how it can grow our agriculture community as well, which is, very near and dear to our hearts. And then oats. So we looked at this. Originally, we were going to get this out of Ontario. Oats shipped to Ontario. As a lot of stuff we do, and then bring it back here. And then we talked to this company, and they kind of they were getting some PIC money. We had early talks early in the summer, and then we kind of worked out a deal. And it was a local company out of Regina moving back into Canada. They were doing some soya beverages outside in the Dominican Republic for Central and South America. They decided to move back home and create this plant. They're doing stuff out of the food center as well. And this is kind of the quote, and I love this quote. I'll be, very pleased to see a product that is grown in Saskatchewan, processed in Saskatchewan, packaged in Saskatchewan, and on shelves in Western Canada. And that's, really what we're trying to do here. And then connect it. The other connection for us here is we're trying to use that grown with purpose, which is a sustainable precision agriculture growing practice. The beauty of working local and working is you got so much more decision making on its head. So, that's not done yet, but we're trying to look at a supplier, Western Canadian supplier that is growing sustainably and trying to use his oats, and then having that connection, that whole story connection from farm to fork. As I mentioned earlier, we think it's so important to get make the star of some of these products the grower or the farmer, and that's this is a perfect item. We see a lot of opportunity here in doing those kind of connections. So grown with purpose, growing more, growing sustainable. It's the 4R, using the right source at the right rate at the right time in the right place. And I think that's going to be a real big future of agriculture moving forward. This is what really kind of started our big trend as far as working locally and being more involved. And this started really by looking at this category, which was, a very, very stagnant category. There was really no growth in it. It was flat right across. You go down the jam aisle, they're all basically similar. They have a very, to me, they didn't have that homemade taste that I've always loved, and I would never ever buy jam in a store, because of that. So, we looked at that and we worked a lot with Grace, who's pictured here out of Riverbend, and worked with her on trying to develop a product that has that more homemade feel. So, taking, traditional items and putting our twist to it to make it, more homemade, make it something, that your mother would make or your grandmother would make or that you would make at home. It has more of that fruit first. That was very, very important. We wanted to get as much sugar as possible out of the fruit before we added. So, you're looking at a 60 to 65% fruit content versus 30, 35% in regular jam. And it's been a huge success. We've grown this business. Growth is over 20%, 30% a year over year. And it just and at a premium price. And it just proved that if you do things and you're looking at white space and you do things that really, really relate to consumers and get them engaged with it, that you can be very, very successful on it. So, and we've got a couple more new flavors coming out this year, and we really want to expand this. Again, all fruit is grown and harvested in Western Canada, and we set those standards, and that's sometimes difficult. It was difficult this year because of COVID, and that whole market just seemed to, you either had product or you didn't, and whatever you had went right away. So, it was somewhat of a real struggle this year, but we were able to survive and get through it. Another local great product, somewhat of a farm to fork story. And this is, again, items we really wanted to look at is, a lot of our fish that we sell at our stores are, come from the coast. No problem with that. We love that fish as well. But we really wanted to do something, on our lake fish, our walleye, northern pike, and lake trout. So we're looking, we've gone to, this is led by Indigenous community. We started at Walston Lake, and we moved it to Isle La Crosse. And we changed it. This was originally a Saskatchewan only product, but we moved it to the northern lake. So it's really Saskatchewan and Manitoba, because those are really the only two provinces that we really do anything commercially from a fishing standpoint. Other than BC, but that's a different market altogether. So, again, having that story that, that engages our consumers. This has been a very, very successful product. A lot of it is winter fished as well. We have a, romance copy in the back. We wanted to have that, show some of the fishermen on there. And then really the story about Isle La Crosse and what it means to them for us to be partners with them. At the end of the day, they're getting, economic benefit to their community. And in return, we get some fantastic quality product that we can share right across Western Canada. So, trying to expand their market as well. And just the work that went into this when we first talked with Walston, they didn't have their federal license, and you do need a federal license to ship in between province, and just all the hard work they did. This is kind of one of the videos we did. We're looking at doing a commercial as well. We did one commercial as well. We're looking at doing another one. This was taken the week before we were all sent home on COVID. So this was last March. Again, just during the end of their winter fishing. And yeah, just wonderful company, wonderful people to deal with. And fantastic product. And the beauty of this, but we won a few of these awards, but I was never very more proud than winning this. We won a new product award a couple years ago on this product, a Grand Prix award where we all down in Toronto, and it's a national award, and everyone puts their entry in, and then they pick the best product. A lot of tasting and packaging's involved in some of that. And I was just so proud to win this award on behalf of our partners at Walston and Isle La Crosse. Some other, local as well this is a non-alcohol beer we're doing with District down in Regina. We're looking at expanding that. This is non-alcohol, which is a huge trend. Flat Tail Pale Ale. Great product. This is the real beer with alcohol. And this is another one I think we can relate, because a lot of that barley is grown locally, and then if we can put that grown with purpose story behind it. So that's what we're looking at right now, and seeing if we can do something from a sustainable side as well. Boreal Heartland. This is up in the Boreal forest in northern Saskatchewan, and we did some teas. These are hand-forged teas. Again, picked 95% from Indigenous community, and to make tea. And these are really kind of relaxation and restoration tea. Love this. It's a great story, great product as well. This is not so much a local story, but it's a really cool story from Stonetown Cheese out in St. Mary's. Farm to fork story. It's about a family that's moved here in the mid-90s from the Swiss Alps. Cheesemakers ended up buying a dairy farm and then eventually putting a plant right on their farm. I love it. And then making these wonderful Swiss cheeses using local products, right? And I love that story, is when you take something that's authentic from somewhere else, you bring it over here and you do something locally, which is really cool. Oh, sorry. Our honey dill chips is another one, not necessarily local. And this is something we developed with the Albright family, Covered Bridge out in New Brunswick. Another farm to fork, another idea of a potato farmer deciding to put a chip plant on their farm. Very single source. We use a rustic potato, and then what we did was kind of try to develop a local flavor. And you guys are well aware of honey dill, how popular it is in Manitoba. And we came up with this chip. We raised some money for charity, and it was a huge hit. This was probably, in my whole 30 years, the best launch we've ever done. And it was just, everybody in the community got really involved. And we raised a bit of money, which was kind of cool. Egg noodle, this is another Manitoba product. Hand rolled, again, using local ingredients. So not necessarily finished product, but using local ingredients. And it's basically egg and flour in this. So, very keen using these old world tradition recipes, but using some local products. And then we do a whole campaign around that, social media. We do a bit of television, e-blast, all that other stuff. I like this. This is a new trend, and everyone's going to freak out because it's ice cream made with chickpeas, but it's that's really the growth. Is alternative dairy is big and growing. So this is chickpea out of Western Canada or out of the prairies. We ship it out to BC, and it gets made into ice cream. It's a fantastic product. Hard to tell that this isn't real ice cream as well. So, and that's ready to launch. Again, what we did here is these are, Italian soda. I'm Italian. You go to Italy and you buy pop or any of the pop. It has real juice in it. And we brought in Italian soda from Italy, and we did that for 4 or 5 years. And great product, had huge success. But we decided to see if we can get it locally done. And this is done out of BC for us. And just finishing up, just kind of some of the messaging we're trying to do, raised, grown, and produced at home in Western Canada. Kind of some of the messaging, our pot stickers, which have, again, another award-winning, using world, again, that world flavors, but using Western Canadian ingredients. And just kind of, we do these 2 booklets a year, one on grilling, and then one during the festive season. And this is kind of meet the makers. And it's really about, trying to highlight, trying to make our makers or our farmers or our growers or processors the star of the show, and just put kind of a story behind it. And that's it. That's the presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Sav. That was really fascinating, and I love the way you built the stories around the products that you've been working with with Federated Co-op. So thank you very much for your time. You can tell you put a lot of thought into this presentation. It was really good. And there's a lot of questions coming in. So just for everybody to know, if we don't get your question answered, we will talk to Sab behind the scenes to get an answer out to you. So we have 10 minutes for questions now. And I guess I should just say I'm Roberta Irvin, and I have a company called Food Propeller, which is a food consulting business. So to kick off the questions, I'll just read out ask you some of the questions that have come in on our chat line, Sab. So we're getting a few questions about how do you make the decision about which manufacturer or food processor are you going to take on or develop a partnership with? And I love that pickle story, because you're right. I mean, we grow so much here, and yet the processing isn't always where it needs to be in order to have things roll out down the value chain. So people are wondering, can they get involved with Federated Co-op?
Yeah, we'd love, we'd love more entrepreneurs into this business. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard for me to find people that I really want. There's a lot of ideas I have, and we can't just, or that we have, and we can't just seem to get someone to do it. We're limited sometimes because of the food center's capacity. It's just really reaching out, see what you have, and then see if the fit's there. The jam is the fruit spreads are a perfect example where we wanted something that wasn't available. We knew a local jam producer here who wasn't exactly making what we wanted, but we really worked together in R&D in that and developed something that we really, really wanted. And it's been a huge, huge success. We're very open, we're very approachable, but we're trying to get more people involved, right? And I think a lot of it, if you look at our Prairie Fresh experience, where you really, we looked at this community of growers and we said, price of carrots are through the roof. Everybody's growing carrots, and that's all you have at driving. So how do you work together and trying to do that as well? So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I like the strawberry example because everybody knows that buying strawberries they're so wooden
awful.
tasting. So I think that's a really great example. But what your answer just kind of segues into another question that we had, which was, would Federated Co-op ever consider building their own facilities? Because you mentioned it's always a challenge, right? Or would you do a joint venture with
a
bank or something?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. I'd love to do it, but there's a whole complexity there. Where we really were trying to go down the road was, we had some commercialization fund, and that those dollars are, still available, but more and more difficult because of the COVID situation. But we had this commercialization fund, but it was really to help entrepreneurs. That's really the heart of it. Is, we'll help you get into business, whatever it takes. But at the end of the day, we want you to grow and run this business on your own, kind of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so right now that's not something that Co-op is entertaining.
Yeah, and if the right opportunity was there, yes, we would definitely look at it. But it's something, we want to grow the community. We want people to get more involved in it because, at the end of the day, that's not our expertise on the whole manufacturing side either, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thanks for that answer. Another question we had was about the response from farmers for your Grow with Purpose, I should say, program.
Yeah. I can't really speak because that's really on the ag side. At the end of the day, no, but let me comment on it. I think, and the way we approach it, and we're still trying to figure that all out. We think there's merit to it, but the story is different when I'm talking to a consumer and different from when when we're talking to our growers or farmers. I think it is the wave of the future. I really do. Precision agriculture comes up a lot in our conversation on our, when, I'm part of that consortium. There is some cost benefits to the growers and farmers. So, I really do. I think there is a way of doing it. What I struggle sometimes with is how do we translate that story to the consumer? And is that a viable story, right? And that's what we're
Mhm.
trying to explore right now. We think it is. We think there's a sustainable story there, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of facets between agriculture and the consumer, and as you say,
Totally.
sustainability. Is it on trend? Is it something that consumers want? I know it's very complex, and you've done a nice job of explaining that to us, like all the different pieces of it. Another question that came up was because you've talked a lot about processors and growers. So the question was, do you ever work with commodity groups per se? So maybe, canola growers or pulse growers, or have you ever done any partnerships there?
Yeah, more from the, not definitely from me, but from probably from our ag team. More from the local growers or local farmers themselves, or the individual farmers we trying to work with. As one-on-one, we do meet with them, as a whole group, and try to figure out what new breeds are there, and new technology, and what's going on in those markets as well. But yeah, somewhat we do. I shouldn't say no, but most of it is with individual farmers.
Okay. This is a cute comment. Someone said that you're making my Mediterranean diet much easier with the chickpea ice cream.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a cute comment. But it brings the question around to functional foods.
Yeah.
And I know when you were talking about your innovation piece, that's certainly, functional foods as well. And I think when you talked about the coffee collective, that whole story about going to Peru and the local
Yeah.
farm, connecting with the local farmers here. And I used to work with a company that we had a functional coffee. So we had, jazzed up the nutrients in it. But in your point of view, what do you think are going to be the next sort of functional foods? You talked about ice
Oh
cream.
my.
Great one.
Yeah. And I see, what I see a lot of movement on, snacking still a big, and it's big. It's a big North American thing, right? It's not necessarily big all over the world. But it's a big North American. Is just trying to get we're so obsessed with protein. Is what are the alternatives out there? How do we get more protein, or make it a bit more healthy-ish? So we're working a lot with pea protein on some snacking.
Right.
You know, and
Okay.
and I think we've done a pretty good job. It's sometimes hard getting that beanie taste out of it. Chickpeas work really well. We're coming out with a chickpea chip later on this year through Covered Bridge, which we think is a great product. But yeah,
That's good.
as far as functionality goes, some of those trends come and go, very, very, very quickly, or some of them, last definitely for a longer time. That's why I like really looking at mega trends and then deciding where we really fit into that mega trend kind of hierarchy. But some of the big thing I'm excited about is the whole CBD market, because again, tracing it back to our hemp farmers, we think there's an opportunity there. Regulations do have to change. We are working with our local hemp producers to make sure, or to understand when those changes. We're leading 18 months out, but I think that's going to be a very, very important trend as well. And I think it should be deregulated from the whole cannabis. So I kind of look at that as far as functionality. For me, teas are always big on functionality, and we're seeing more and more teas being functional as well. So.
We have time for one more question. And the question's about how is COVID affecting consumer buying habits as far as you see? And I know you touched on it a little bit.
Yeah,
But if there's anything else you wanted to say.
For sure. That's that's a massive, massive habit change, right? And it's we benefited from us just because of our sheer size, and we're big on local, so we are attracting a lot of new consumers. It went from everybody buying toilet paper, which was a mass appeal, to sales are strong. We're really, what the challenges is really, costs are going through the roof. Freight costs, bringing a container over from overseas is gone from $2,500 to peak at $8,000 to highest bidder kind of thing. So those are real cost shortages. We had to get out of we're getting out of the pop industry just because of shortage of aluminum cans out there, right? Because people aren't going to restaurants, people are buying stuff from home, so the huge demand. So it's either been from a brand, from a private label brand perspective, stuff we have, we're growing leaps and bounds and we're gaining a lot of customers, but we're stuff we can't get, we're dying in those, right? And
Yeah.
so big challenge, huge challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And it really kind of stops in that whole innovation side, and we're really trying to keep in touch with a lot of our suppliers and make sure, but everyone's just so focused on what they have right now, especially at the beginning. We're seeing some light of day right now, but at the beginning it was scrambling to do whatever they can.
And how long do you think the residual of all this is going to last?
I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball and I can answer that for you. I think there will be a boom for a while. I think people, we're looking at festive coming up, and we're predicting people are going to have big parties or want to go out and want to go celebrate. So I think there is going to be a boom there in restaurants. But does everyone cooking at home? There's a lot of new skills out there. My daughters who live in Calgary on their own, they not big cooks. They're starting to cook and show me pictures. Do they keep that habit going, or do they go back to going out or just ordering in all the time type of thing? I don't know. That's that's a tough one. That's a real tough one to answer. I'll tell you what's gonna, and this is not just me talking, but I think sustainability in plastic is, especially the single-use plastic, is going to be big. Sustainability is going to be, and we kind of went away with it a bit this year because of COVID, but I think that's going to come back really big. And big, because a lot of it is driven by regulations as well, and there's going to be more regulations around it, so we're going to be forced to change as well. So
well, thanks for answering the questions, for your great presentation. We've come to the end of our time, so I just want to thank everyone in the Zoom audience for participating. And if you want to know anything more about the Canadian Agricultural Marketing Association, or CAMA as we call it, please go to our website at www.cama.org. We've got another Lunch and Learn coming up in April, so I hope as many of you can join us as possible. And also check out the co-op, the Federated Co-op website as well. There's lots of good information and inspiration on there as well. So have a great day, everybody. And thank you everyone for joining. And thanks again, Sav. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.